Today we're playing the Rocky Top Super Major. This one is special to me because it's my hometown, and last year I attended but didn't get to finish due to an injury the night after day one. My list is Chaos Demons. I brought the Unkillable Chicken, who has a variety of defensive abilities and throws up mortal wounds. The Bloodthirster, who is phase capped and took the Relic to have damage 3 sweep attacks. A Fate Skimmer and Exalted Flamer to buff up my 14 regular Flamers. A Transweaver to give a 5-up Feel No Pain to my 10 Fiends and do Warp Ritual. And 9 Nurglings to attempt to control the board from turn 1 on. What you'll notice first is that I have 0 OBSEC models. I absolutely intend to play on my opponent's side of the board and try to table them every game. Jumping into round 1, we're in a classic matchup. Demons versus Grey Knights. I actually think this is a bad matchup for Demons, and I'll explain as we go on. He's got the Mortal Wound Librarian in his list, the Jumpy Grandmaster with a 3-up invuln, Drago as a caddy for his teleport power, 30 Interceptors, some Purgation Squad with Flamers, and a Rhino to give 2 squads of Interceptors some extra movement off the line. I deploy my terrain in Dawn of War style, despite us having quarters deployment, and for my own deployment, I use those Nurglings, as I said, to get board control and deny any advantageous turn 1 teleports. He does win the roll-off and elects to teleport a Dread Knight to the far right corner. He takes some shots at the Flamers, but doesn't really do anything other than killing 1. Then it's my turn. My Nurglings here and here stay put to score Reality Rebels, and they continue to deny teleport space, while my Flamers here have cleared away a unit of Interceptors to make sure he doesn't get a good primary score turn 1. My Fleshhounds also made the charge and Interceptors in the middle, and took out the 1 Hammer unit. On his turn, he doubles down on teleporting Dread Knights into the corner to try and get Teleport Assault, since it failed the first time. My 3-man Flamer unit will go down, and the top Dread Knight does take this opportunity to throw some shots at the upper unit of Flamers. Inceptors move on to the point to deny my primary, and he sets up to blow the Fleshhounds away with his Librarian's Mortal Wounds. For my turn, I reduce his leadership with Warp Storm, so that I can drop this Bloodthirster into a 6-inch charge into both Dread Knights. My chicken walks forward, trying to assist with mortal wounds, although I know with Grey Knights 5-up to mortals it won't do that much, so he set up to charge as well. My speedy Fiends come to take away the point, and with Delightful Agonies they'll actually be kind of difficult for the Grey Knight player to kill on the following turn. Both of my remaining Flamer units are also going to try to take out this Rhino, just so they can't deny the Overwatch on the following turn. My chicken ends up failing his charge, but the Thirster managed to take down a Dread Knight while not taking any wounds back. The Fiends clear out the Inceptors, and my Flamers charge the Rhino when I fail to kill it. My opponent takes his turn and sets up his Grandmaster and Interceptors to go into my Fiends. The Purgation Squad intends to flame my Nurglings away to score his Teleport Assault, while the Dread Knight and Librarian intend to Psychic and shoot away whatever they can. Then the Dread Knight intends to charge these Nurglings and deny me primary again. While I think this is a good plan, what actually happened was a little different. He chose to shoot and move these Interceptors first to try and score behind me lines. He failed to kill my Nurglings, and he left 1 Flamer alive. Back on my turn, I do get primary for the Nurglings now living on the upper left objective. My Transweaver and Fleshhounds intend to remove these Inceptors with a charge, while my Fiends that have only lost 2 models thanks to Delightful Agonies make sure the Grandmaster uses his 3-up invuln. My chicken intends to move in and finish him off with the Fiend's help now. Caldor Drago is actually sitting behind this wall where you can't see, and I'm committing this entire unit of Fiends into him to make sure I punch through his 3-up invuln. With Delightful Agonies, I'm not too worried about him fighting on death, as I'm probably going to live. Finally, these Flamers are going to try and remove this Dread Knight. Combat Resolution sees me kill his Grandmaster, his last Dread Knight in the corner, Drago, and tag the Librarian so that all his Psychic has to go into the Fiends now, who conveniently have Delightful Agonies. We do put some wounds on the last Dread Knight with Flamers, but we don't kill him. On his turn, he picks up the Fiends without the Agonies with the Purgation Squad, charges into the chicken with an Inceptor unit, does a little bit of damage, but loses 2 Inceptors back. He kills all but 2 Fiends in the Delightful Agony unit, and he continues to leave my Nurglings alone, which allows me to 12 him on primary. On my following turn, I pick everything in his army up, and we're done. Round 2, it's Khorne. He's got the Thirster you'd expect, Scarbrand, a herd of Bloodletters, and various trash units to skirmish and hold objectives. We deploy passively. I win the roll to go first, and I teleport the big chicken turn 1 to Bolt of Change and Infernal Gateway some Bloodletters down. Our Nurglings are forward deployed here to force him to trade a unit of Bloodletters for them, or we'll score 12 if he doesn't. He plays a very passive turn 2 and lets us have the 12 on primary, not wanting to trade while he still has 30 Bloodletters in Deep Strike. Our main goal now is to block Skarbrand from doing anything. Since he was deployed further back and not on the line, we're going to do our best to make him irrelevant. And the Nurglings preventing him from going through or around are going to do just that. We start by reducing leadership further with Warpstorm, and our Fleshhounds are the ones to go and deliver that debuff. We also want them there so that they can charge first and get to be 2 damage, while his are at 1 damage. Our Thirster intends to smack away his Skull Cannon, and these Flamers are going to try and shoo away his Fleshhounds so that our Fleshhounds on that side can charge further into his line. Another unit of Nurglings walks off to offer the same trade for primary as last turn to see if he'll take it. Our plan does work exactly as we intend, and we throw it back to him to see what he can do about it. All he does is drop in his reserves and move Skarbrand into the Nurglings. The Bloodletters and Skullcrushers clear away everything but 1 Fleshhound and the Bloodthirster on his home objectives. And unfortunately for him, his Bloodthirster fails the charge out of Deep Strike. On my turn, I continue the pressure. I bring all my Flamers out and intend to try and take out Skarbrand in one go with my own Bloodthirster and Flamers. The other unit wants to wound his Thirster and deny where that Thirster can then land and declare a charge. I offer him a Transweaver off an objective if he wants to go and have the Thirster kill that instead, although I don't expect him to. My Fiends have a 4-inch charge, and I have the CP to reroll it if I need to. And it turns out I do, because I failed the first time, reroll it, and fail it the second time. My Fiends are now in the wind and pretty much dead. He responds to this by bringing in the last of his reserves, punching away my Fiends and Flamers, but he does fail both charges with his Bloodletters, so they end up standing in the wind too. On my turn, I prevent his Thirster from landing anywhere useful by placing my Nurglings and Fate Skimmer within an inch of where that Bloodthirster could possibly land. I position with my Flamers to ensure that I'll hold these 3 objectives no matter what he does on his turn. My own Thirster is then going to lock itself into combat with his, and that's how we'll finish the game. For round 3, we're against Tzeentch and Thousand Suns. And someone brought a bigger, badder chicken than us. It's all about Kairos this matchup. He's got buffing characters, rubrics to score, demons to screen, and terminators to deal damage alongside his mind bullets. We set up terrain to emphasize a key point of this specific mission. It's secure missing artifacts, where you can completely ignore the middle objective if you want to, and still score max primary points. So, I just want to attack the middle over and over and hold my 2 points comfortably behind my walls. For deployment, we're set up to screen out his turn 1 teleports and be as hidden as possible. Our Nurglings are actually wholly within 6 of the center and never actually need to move to score Reality Rebels. We do get first turn and do something horrible with it. I made all these plans to sit tight and outscore him, only striking as needed, but I woke up choosing violence this morning and decided to teleport my chicken over to get into a psychic fight with Thousand Suns. So, yeah, he denied every one of my powers, hit all 3 mortals by flying over with screamers, rolled an actual 4 11s on the dice when casting his own mortal wound powers, then, to add insult to injury, rolled max damage on them, and popped my chicken immediately. This is just a reminder that Kairos is the real chicken. And, of course, some of these screamers came to the middle and annoyed my Nurglings. Now that we're committed to violence, we're going to have to continue that. Mostly because I need to now fight on his side of the table, mostly so he can't maximize that 350-point handicap I just gave him. Fiends are going over to finish rubrics and screamers, Hounds are clearing screens and trash in the middle, and on his upper objective. We heavily tax his Psychic with Warpstorm on perils on any rolls of doubles, reduces Psychic cast by 2 from the Fiends with the Strat, and our poor Fleshhounds get mobbed to death by Terminators. His Flamers do arrive to score engage once and shoot at nothing. On my turn, I use my Warpstorm to reduce leadership first. I throw some Fiends into his casters again, intending to use the Strat, and I drop my Bloodthirster in to hopefully pick up those Scarab Occult Terminators in one go. The Fiends that remain move to block where Kairos can land, and make themselves the closest targets to soak up the mortals in lieu of the Bloodthirster taking them. Unfortunately, again, we fail the charge into the Terminators with our reroll. Oops. That Thirster is not long for this world. We do manage to muddy the waters with some Fiends into all his casters, and our flamers show his who's really boss. I mean, it's actually Kairos this game, but you know what I mean. On his turn, he puts Kairos and Terminators into the Thirster, beats up my Fiends, and kills the Thirster. Oh wait, I meant he tried to do that. Instead, my Thirster passes 9 4-up invulnerable saves, swings back, gets every hit, every wound, and kills every Terminator the last man. Okay? Looks like one of Kairos' 2 heads didn't see that far into the future. Kairos finally does kill the Thirster for real, and our Flamers beat up on the last of his units. What a wild game. It's now day 2, and we're sitting pretty at 3-0. And who do we run into but Mortarian's finest? He has the Tallyman for CP regen, a Plague Caster to give out defensive buffs, a Foul Blight Spawn to completely discourage enemy melee and charges, a Putrefier to allow the Terminators to dump mortal wounds on things, the remaining usual suspect. I set up to move aggressively towards the lower right objective. I forward deploy Nurglings as close as possible to tie up his Plague Burst Crawler, and my other Nurglings are in the center to score Reality Rebels. He wins the roll-off and rolls advance rolls for his entire army minus the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers. If you're a Death Guard player going into 10th, take note, this is exactly how all of your Death Guard turn 1s should go. As many advances as possible. His shooting tickles some Nurglings, and then I move aggressively with the Chicken and Fiends to get damage on the Plague Marines and the Crawler, while also clearing away a drone that has come out to the middle. On his turn 2, he falls back the remaining Plague Marines out of combat, moves the second unit onto the point, ensure that he'll hold it no matter what, and shoots away the Nurglings in combat with the Plague Burst Crawler. For his upper side, he gets out 10 Marines from his Rhino to deny the middle objective, and then drives his Rhino over to contest my upper left point. I then throw everything including the kitchen sink at him. He chose not to charge these Plague Marines into the Fiends, which I think was a mistake, because now I can run them up to deny his home objective and give his only caster -2 to cast for a CP. The Chicken uses his Psychic to put wounds where he can, and the rest of my army charges and kills the Plague Marines and the Rhino. I actually didn't care about killing them, although I expected I would. I mainly just wanted to use their charges to block out the Death Guard player from moving. This is Death Guard's greatest weakness, movement. On his turn, I've only given him one option. Come out with everything he's got left, and hope it goes well for him. His Plague Burst and Tattered Marines are going to charge this Chicken and try to soak up its mortals on the following turn. These Blight Lords are going to push through to the Fiends, and he spends 5 CP on them for various buffs to ensure he kills them. And this Plague Drone is going to try and mow down some Hounds while touching the Flamers and forcing them to fall back. The Plague Burst at the top is locked into shooting the Fiends, and his characters are going to punch these other Flamers. He does take his Pound of Flesh, and my remaining units fall back. The Dogs and Flamers move to secure this objective, while the remaining 2 Flamers of the front group fall back onto his home objective to continue denying it. The Thirster does come down and beats down 7 Terminators, and my last unit of Flamers clears away some characters. My Chicken does critically use his Bolt of Change to kill the Foul Blight Spawn, who stepped too far beyond the wall. On his turn, 3 Black Lords come forward to charge Nurglings, but he fails to kill them, while the Plague Drone that was engaged to the Thirster comes back to the middle to deny me holding it. I then put my Thirster in his last Plague Drones, pick up his Blight Lords, and move my Flamers, flame away his remaining units on his point. It was at this point that I had about 15 minutes on my clock, and he had just run out. I wanted him to get all the points that he could, so I agreed with him to just kind of talk out what he could score for the rest of the game, and only roll the most critical of rolls on my time. After this, I was 4-0 and feeling great. But unfortunately, this video is getting too long for me to show you the rest of the games, so check back soon for part 2. There are amazing games that I played on stream at Wargames Live, including me playing first and second twice. So as always, thanks for rolling some dice with Rice, and we'll see you in part 2.